Boom! I'm in the room. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Conversations Regarding Mental Health. Today, we've got a great show. Talking to some guys from Service Dogs UK, a charity set up to help veterans with PTSD. They married a veteran up with a dog and they go through the training. It's a fantastic charity. You'll learn all about it this evening. Before that, just want to give my book a plug. Nearly got it wrong. I'm a published author. I am a #1 best-selling author on Amazon. If you want to know how to be a great host, that's the book, Podmatch Host Mastery. There's an accompanying book, Podcast Guest Mastery, to go along with it. There's 16 experts like myself and 16 guests have contributed to this book. There it is. It's on Amazon. It's a bestseller. If you want to know how to be a great guest or a great host, that's the book to get. You can also support me by buying us a coffee. It's cheap. You can also, there's a QR code for it. Who thought I was that far ahead with technology? Anyway, coming to you live from the Heale Manor. Feel free to subscribe to the channel. It doesn't cost anything. Really doesn't cost anything to subscribe to the channel. You can click the bell icon and you can also give us a like. Give us a thumbs up because that helps a lot as well, apparently. Anyway, without further ado, we'll get on with the show. So we're coming to you live from the Heale Manor because there's nothing on the telly, right? So you might as well watch us. And I've got a cracking show. So on a Tuesday, we've got the quiz and fun facts. They're starting to get momentum. Lots of people are joining in and that. It's a great quiz. The questions are relatively easy. It's not to be hard, it's to be fun. So tonight we've got the Service Dogs UK coming on, and next week and a couple of weeks after, we're going to be looking at particularly destigmatising mental health, and particularly in the veterans community, whether it be serving or regular. We're going to try and destigmatise that, and it's okay not to be okay. So without too much ado, let's have a quick look who's playing tonight. Good evening, Keith. Welcome. Anybody else out there wants to just pop in and say hello and let us know where you're watching from? If you have any questions as we're going through, pop them in the old chat box and we'll do our best to answer those questions for you. So without too much further ado, I'll just introduce the two guys we got on tonight. So, good evening, Gary. Good evening, Martin.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So, Gary is the CEO of the Service Dogs UK charity, and he's the guy, if I'm correct, set it up in the first place. And Martin is one of the guys that's benefiting from the charity. So, Martin, Gary, if you just want to say a quick hello, and then we'll come to you in a minute, and just let the guys know who you are and what's your background.
Hi, Tim, and hello everybody else who's here tonight. Come along to talk about Service Dogs UK and what we do. My name is Gary Bottrell. I am the operations director and founder of Service Dogs UK, and we started this charity in 2015. I'm a veteran myself from the Royal Navy, and my daytime job is as a serving police sergeant on secondment to the National Police Wellbeing Service.
Brilliant. How about you, Martin?
Okay, yeah. So my name's Martin Diver, and I'm one of the veterans that's joined Service Dogs UK with Ollie. Hopefully, he'll join us in a minute. He's snoozing on the sofa. Um, yeah, I served with the 2nd Battalion Royal Anglian Regiment, and when I left, I
Poacher.
poacher. Yeah, I retrained as a mental health nurse, and I now work in the NHS as a mental health nurse. Done that for about 15 years now. And come across Service Dogs UK about 2 years ago when I started suffering some PTSD. And they have been an absolute godsend in my life.
Brilliant. Well, we'll look at your story in a bit. So, in the meantime, what we'll do is we're going to drop you down and we're going to concentrate on Gary for a little while. So, thanks, Martin. Poacher. We'll come back to each other shortly.
Cheers.
Wow. that caught me sideways. I didn't know you got a poacher on. You should have told me. You should have warned me off.
Yeah, we're not fussy. We'll take anybody.
I know. Brilliant. So, Martin, a bit about your background then. Royal Navy. So, what was your trade in the Navy to start with?
So I'm Gary, and my background was a communicator in the Royal Navy. So I was they used to call them ROs. I don't even think that they exist anymore in today's modern Royal Navy.
Radio
So
officer.
they didn't have banks of strange equipment that you had to plug in and out every day. Now that I think they do it on a computer or a laptop instead.
Uh-huh. So, I mean, obviously, you're a seagoer as well. That's where so what's RO? Is that radio officer?
Radio
Radio
operator,
ops?
yeah.
Radio
So
operator.
I ended up a leading radio operator for my stalwart service and keeping out of trouble. But I did 6 years, and I had some really good deployments. I was served on a Type 42 destroyer called HMS Cardiff. Went down to the original Gulf War between Iran and Iraq, and where we were looking after the oil interests. It's called our Miller Patrol, um, and from on the back of that, got to go to some wonderful places and some not so wonderful places, uh, Djibouti, Mogadishu, sort of places like that. But as well as the Seychelles, which was fantastic. I was lucky enough to get 18 months in Gibraltar in the communication centre there.
Wow.
And I also spent time on minesweepers, Chiddingfold, which has got a plastic hull. And my last ship was HMS Maxton, which was, I think, the last ship with a wooden hull. And I was on it as it came into Portsmouth to decommission. And we barely made it to the dockyard before it fell apart.
Brilliant. So they couldn't cut that one up for razor blades then?
No, lots of good firewood.
Yeah, absolutely. So, how did you get into working with dogs?
So I have my real job, if you like, is a police officer, and I'm a police sergeant and have been for just over 30 years. But in 2014, a friend of mine who was also in the Royal Navy was almost killed, dragged beneath a car by criminals, and he almost lost his life. And the result of that was that he developed PTSD, and I found out fairly quickly that there wasn't an awful lot of things that were out there that would support him. So when I went to visit him, I noticed that when this strange phenomena, when he was holding his dog, he'd calmed down. He wasn't sort of shaking, and he wasn't sweating, and his anxiety levels dropped dramatically. So I looked into this, and lo and behold, in the States and the Netherlands, they've got PTSD assistance dog programs to help people with PTSD. So I did the research, looked into how successful it was, and it was very successful in the States and the Netherlands. And I applied for a Churchill Fellowship to go out to visit those organisations, the ones that were doing fantastic work in California, Albuquerque, South Carolina, and Washington, and as well as the Netherlands, to find out about these marvellous programs, get embedded in them, and to bring that learning back to the UK. And luckily, I was accepted, and I got past the interviews. And off I went in 2015 in April, and I was supported by my work. They gave me some additional time off to do this, and then in 2015 we set up the charity, and in September 2015 we had our first 2 veterans, and since then we've been going ever since, and we've had 35 veterans partnered up with our dogs that are mostly from rescue from the Dogs Trust, and they've had phenomenal success. It's been life changing for them, and we've found that the people, the beneficiaries, our veterans from the armed forces and the emergency services, have found that they can do things that they previously thought they would never be able to do again.
Brilliant. So that's how you got the charity up and running, or what was the catalyst to start it? So, how much help has the police given you then? Obviously, they're giving you time off and stuff like that.
Yeah. So the police have been very good. My local employers have been fantastic, and with things like time off. But it's a public body, so we don't get any funding from the police. Having said that, we have had £500 here and there from various chief constables, whose officers and staff we've helped and assisted. So. But the most of the help that we've had from the police has been in terms of time. At one point, we didn't have premises, so we were working out of a police station. We've used an outbuilding in a police station to hold training in the past. And the role I currently do, which is the National Police Wellbeing Service OK9, which is the Wellbeing dog initiative, came about as a result of them looking at the work I was doing with assistance dogs to help people who had suffered trauma, and they wanted to have that information to do something different within the police and fire and rescue service to help people who may be subjected to trauma, and to help them build up the resilience and everything that they needed to work with in a traumatic area, because they are dealing with trauma on a daily basis, and to be able to talk about that afterwards, to have the opportunity to come back and process those traumas with a dog and with their peer support, mental health, first aid colleagues. So it's all about getting people to talk through the incidents that they're experiencing. So that was another upshot, an unexpected development as a result of the work I do with Service Dogs UK. I am a volunteer with Service Dogs UK. I'm the operations director and founder, and I sit on the board of trustees. But I'm not paid. I'm paid only by the police for my police role. So, like a lot of the people with Service Dogs UK, we volunteer because we believe in it and we're committed to it. We've got paid trainers who work part-time for us, and we've got a paid administrator. So what that means is that we're able to provide a really, really professional service at a fraction of the cost that other assistance dogs organisations spend on getting dogs and people and putting them through to accreditation. So we you get a lot of bang for your buck with us, and we punch above our weight, and we're really proud of that. So when people donate to us, we know that they get absolute value for money.
Brilliant. So, are the dogs similar to like guide dogs for the blind? Are they on the same level playing field with the same rights of being able to effectively go anywhere?
Yes, so the International Guide Dog Foundation and ADI are collaborating, and they are the main bodies, the main organisations that got international recognition. We are ADI members, which basically means that we've been assessed from everything from paperwork right the way through to visits, coming, seeing the training, seeing how we do things, looking at our business plan, all the rest of it. And we've been accredited as being an ADI member, which basically means that we're an accredited assistance dog organisation. We're members of Assistance Dogs UK, and assistance dogs have got the same public access rights as guide dogs. It's exactly the same. So when you say you see in a shop, guide dogs are welcome. Uh, you know, you can read assistance dogs as well because they're part of the same, and they've got the same rights under the Equality Act 2010.
So that's and did you go through that accreditation process, or was it already set up and you've had to register to get on the back of it? How does that work?
No, we worked. We we want our veterans to have that 24-hour access with their dogs, because if they're going to have a panic attack or an anxiety attack, or they need some support, they're going to need their dog with them. So it's no good them going out without their dog. They need their dog to help them, and they need their dog to help them on buses, trains, in restaurants, in cafes, to be there for them when they are having some kind of episode. So it's important the dogs are there to support them, and the only way we can actually do that is to go through and get the accreditation, which is what we aim to do right from the beginning. And we worked really hard. We had to make sure that our processes, our procedures, our safeguarding, our everything from GDPR, the whole gambit was really, really top notch to make sure that we were going to be successful. And we were successful in October 21, and we achieved that accreditation, and we're really proud of that. But we were the first PTSD assistance dog program in the UK to be accredited. So that's a heck of an achievement. But we couldn't have done that without our brilliant staff, our brilliant volunteers, and all the people who really are committed to giving of themselves to help our veterans with PTSD.
Fantastic. So where does the majority of your funding come from? Is it purely from donations? Do you get any government assistance? Do the veterans contribute to themselves? How does that work?
Yeah, so we don't. The veterans go through the program, and all the time on the program, we pay for everything. We pay for the dog, the insurance, the food, all the equipment, the bedding. So there's no expense on the veteran at all. However, when they do become accredited, that's when they need to take responsibility for those things, and that's explained to them right at the start. We work in conjunction and collaboration with other veteran charities, and we're really pleased to do so. I mean, we've had some great support from SAFA, RBL, from VOS, in actual fact, who have been great in helping veterans with things like PIPs, war pensions, all that sort of stuff that we can't help with, but they can, and they're the experts at it. So it's great to work alongside those organisations to give some sort of blanket cover. But our funding really is from the general public, donations, people sponsoring a dog, which is incredible because for a few pounds a month, people can sort of get updated about how a dog is going through the training and when they get matched to a veteran and how they go on. So we use initiatives like that in order to raise money, and we have been successful in getting grants from the Armed Forces Covenant. In particular, the Veterans Foundation have been brilliant. The Armed Forces Covenant grant side of things have been, we've had a couple of grants from them, which have been great. And they wanted to use us as an impact study because what we were asked to do with the grant, we did more with, and it was really, really successful. And we were able to show the value for money that we can give. We've also had grants from the Army Benevolent Fund, and the Armed Forces organisations have been terrific. We've recently joined COBSIO, and that's been great. We're able to access some great support for our military veterans. We've been less fortunate with our emergency services veterans because the setup isn't as good. I mean, the Armed Forces way of organising their charitable activities has improved dramatically, and there's more of a collaborative approach. There's less people sort of vying for funds, and they work together more seamlessly in order to provide the support that veterans need, which is a good thing. And I think the emergency services aren't anywhere near that yet.
Well, I think that's fairly evident whenever there's a big crisis on. The first people they call is the military to come in and sort it out. Especially when the military is now pretty much, is struggling. For numbers and everything along that way. Brilliant. So that's fantastic what you've been doing. I'm going to go over now to have a chat with Martin. So we'll get you back in a little while, and take it from there. Let me just drop into there. So we've had a few comments in. Anybody who's got any questions out there for either Gary or Martin, pop them in the chat box. So, Martin, good evening again. How you doing?
I'm good. Nice
Brilliant.
to be here.
So tell us about a little bit about your background. Obviously, come from the best regiment in the British Army, and obviously the best battalion.
Of course,
being a poacher.
Yeah. Served from 86 to 94 in the 2nd Battalion Royal Anglian Regiment. Did a bit with those. When I left the military, life was pretty mundane, really. I bummed around, didn't really know what I was doing. I knew something wasn't quite right with me because of my experiences in there, but didn't really associate any illness or anything that might be wrong with me. I just bumbled along through life and went from one disaster to another, to eventually I sort of met up with another pal who was from the poachers, and his wife was running a nursing agency. And he said to me, "Look, what are you doing?" And I was, "Well, nothing really. A bit of this, a bit of that, a bit of the other." And he said, "Look, why don't you try this? My wife's running an agency. Come along and see how that goes." So I worked in a psychiatric unit as a healthcare assistant, really. I did that for a while, kind of hooked from day one. Did it for about a year, and then sort of some of the staff in there sort of said to me, "Look, you should really think about getting qualified and get yourself trained." So I went on an access course for a year and got myself some qualifications to go to university. Did 3 years there, and then qualified as a psychiatric nurse, and embarked on my second career, really, which was in mental health nursing. did that for quite a while. I've been doing it now for about 15 years. There's been quite a few, as you can imagine. It's sometimes very tricky environment to work in. And some of those military skills that you might have had before are really useful in what we do. But I guess for me, I was assaulted quite badly at work. And that triggered really this episode of PTSD. Everything sort of culminated at that point, and all this sort of stuff started coming forward, and having night sweats and night terrors and nightmares, and not really understanding, and probably doing lots of the stuff that most people with PTSD do, that avoiding stuff and it's not happening to me, and blocking it out using all sorts of stuff. Bit of drugs, bit of alcohol, anything just to try and feel a little bit sane and make sense of what's going on in life. So really, as you can imagine, sort of living that kind of lifestyle it's not good. It's not good for you, and it makes the illness a lot worse. And things rollerballed to a massive point where I kind of had a bit of a breakdown. I had to take some time out of work and went away and got diagnosed at that time through the what was known as the Heale service, the Transition Intervention and Liaison Services. They're the veteran mental health services within the NHS, and they diagnosed me with PTSD and tried numerous amounts of medication, which never really worked. A couple of therapies that I had. So one was CBT, and I'm sure most people understand that cognitive behaviour therapy. And then went on to have some EMDR after that. Bamboozle everybody with eye movement desensitization reprogramming. That worked to a certain degree, but I was still not there. I really couldn't connect. I couldn't really stay focused, still withdrawn, wouldn't go out, wouldn't socialise. I had to go to work, of course, but as soon as I'd get in, I'd stay in, and become a bit of a recluse. My relationship broke down, everything went wrong, and then I started to see a therapist again, and she said to me, "Look, have you heard of this organisation called Service Dogs UK?" So I said, well, I had, because I'd obviously seen them around in some of the stuff we do, and I'm an armed forces champion working in the NHS. So I'd met a few of the guys, and I had a rough idea what was going on, but didn't really know whether it would be for me. So I took a little bit of time thinking about that, and then sort of decided, well, maybe it might be helpful. So I took the plunge and made an application to Service Dogs UK. Had an interview, and luckily it was taken onto the programme. It's a very comprehensive interview. It's not. It's a very comprehensive programme, and I think that's a good thing about Service Dogs UK. They really spell that out at the beginning before you embark on anything. They kind of tell you, it's usually, it can be anything up to a year. It can be as quick as 9 months. Depends on the relationship between you and the dog and how things are. We had COVID in the middle of my year, which made things a bit more difficult, because obviously we couldn't meet as a group to train, and we had to have individual training sessions and Zoom lessons, and sort of meeting up with the dog. The whole process is you don't just go to Service Dogs UK and they go, there's you, a veteran, and there's a dog, and off you go, and good luck, and you come to train, and it's nothing like that at all. You go along after you've had your interview and you're accepted, and they make you understand that Service Dogs UK make you understand that it's a commitment, and it's a long haul. It's not a walk in the park. so you go along. Really, I went along on my first week, and luckily, my Ollie was there. I met Ollie on that first session, and really and truly fell in love on that day with him. Although sort of part of the remit, they won't just sort of give you, like I say, you get on with that dog. You get a chance to try several dogs, and see it's not only about you, how you get on with the dog, it's how the dog reacts to you, and do you work well together? Does it come together well? And can is the dog going to be a good fit for you? So you're working with several dogs, across the training sessions over maybe 5-6 weeks. And then the leadership team or the training team come together, and they kind of make a decision along with you about which dog suits you. And then there's another process along after that. You don't just then, you've met the dog for 5-6 weeks at training twice a week on a Saturday and a Wednesday, but the dog just doesn't come home and stay with you straight away. There's it's almost like dating. The dog comes for an overnight stay, or he'll go back the next day back to the foster carers, and then he'll have a few days away, and then you'll meet at training. Maybe he'll come for another couple of days, So over about another 2-3 weeks, eventually the dog's here, and he's staying with you, and you're sort of starting your training as from sort of week one. But what's really good about that for the dog is sort of, he's got used to being here. He's not just plonked in here. He gets used to the environment. He gets used to me. It gradually, slowly becomes his home, like it's my home. They got a fantastic strap line at Service Dogs UK. It's saving 2 lives at a time. Obviously, it's his. He comes from a rescue situation. He comes from the Dogs Trust. And me with my PTSD, and come together and hopefully work well together. And well, we did. Luckily, we trained really hard. The training is fantastic. It's really difficult. He's a dog at the end of the day, and some days he wants to be Ollie, and some day he wants to be an assistance dog. But gradually and slowly across the course of the year, the assistance dog takes over more than Ollie, to the point where he kind of, I think that's the thing I love about him the most, is that he's a real trooper, in the fact that he's got his kit, he's got his uniform, he's got his harness and his lead, and when he's kitted up, when he's got his kit on, he's working, and he's an assistance dog, a fully accredited assistance dog. And maybe we'll talk about some of the stuff that he does in a bit, but when he's not in his harness and he's Ollie at home, he is a dog, and he's happy. He can be a bit of a terrorist at times, and I love that about him. But what's really good about it is that, for me anyway, is that transition from when he's working. He comes to work with me. He'll come to the supermarket with me. We go everywhere together. We just come as a pair, really. So yeah, he does really, really well. But I guess the most unique thing about him and PTSD is something that they cover in the training, and it's absolutely amazing to be part of, and to have him as part of that treatment. Bearing in mind, as I said earlier, I did lots of therapy, lots of medication. I don't have any anymore since I've had him. He's got this unique skill, which the dogs do within Service Dogs UK. So that cycle, that PTSD cycle, where you start off with sweats, that often moves on to night terrors, nightmares, flashbacks, fear. As soon as he detects me sweating, the change in my hormones in the night, he's waking me up before I will have that nightmare. And he's there in my face, making sure I'm alert, I'm awake, I'm focused, I'm looking at him. He jumps on the bed with me. He's panting, he's breath rate will come right the way down. It will bring my breathing down, so I sort of calm down. Once he feels like I've settled enough, he'll curl up, and that's it. Off we pop to sleep again. But that's just, in my eyes, just amazing, and it beats any kind of treatment that I've had in the past from services. Yeah, it's something quite unique.
Does you want to say good evening to the viewers? Can we?
I
Will he
don't know.
come over?
What I'm going to do is I'm going to take you over to him and just show you what it's kind of like. He's in Ollie mode at the moment, and I don't know if you can see him. He's just there. Can you
All right.
see him?
That's Ollie mode, is it?
Yeah, he's just like, oh god, he's chatting on that. So he's chatting on the computer again, because obviously I do a lot of Zoom work for work, and he knows now if I'm talking to the screen, he'd just go sleep. He just can't be bothered.
Brilliant. So how long you've actually been working with Ollie now?
So we did about a year. Well, it was a year's training because of COVID. So we became accredited in December of last year. I think we talk a bit about that if you don't mind. You know, that
Yeah, absolutely.
accreditation and the exam is, it's so again, it's that's a process in itself. So you're taking to you and the dog go to a hotel, and we're there for a few days. You know, you check in. You have to be able to cope. He has to be able to cope with what's going on in that environment. So we're in a strange environment, bars and people coming and throwing, and obviously you've got toilet arrangements and all types of things to do. But during the course of those 2 days, so there's a written exam for me. There's quite a bit of stuff that you need to take on board as a veteran. You learn about grooming, welfare law, and food, and just general care of the dog, which you're examined on. And then for him, he's so we go out to a shopping complex. He's in shops. We go to a cinema. So we're in the cinema, and the noise is going, and he has to be able to just be. In Service Dogs UK, they use the big U word, unobtrusive. And I think he's being pretty unobtrusive now, really. He's keeping out of the way.
Well, he's in Ollie mode.
Yeah, he's in Ollie mode. But they use that word at Service Dogs UK, being unobtrusive, and that's how he has to perform. We go to cafes, we go to restaurants, and we go to bars in the evening. We go to bus stations, we go on buses, we go on trains, we go to train stations. So he's examined in all different types of environment to make sure both he and me can cope. Because I think that's the biggest thing about the training, the year's training. That's fantastic. That's why I swear by that training, because the skills that the trainers give you within that year. So when you become accredited and you go out into the big wide world, with me as a veteran and an assistance dog, for the previous year we've been going training on every Wednesday and every Saturday. Well, now we're back at working Monday to Friday. We have to go to training for, I think it's 3 sessions in the first 6 months, and then when you hit 6 months, you're examined at the end of the year. So we get re-examined every year. But it's the skills that you learn within the year while you're training that really help when you're in the big wide world, because some of the leads and the tools and the stuff that you might need, some of the skills that he has are incredible, and people are always amazed in the supermarket he'll sit at the end of an aisle, and I'll drop the lead, and I'll go off browsing down the aisle, picking stuff out and put it in the trolley or in the basket, and he's still sat there at the end of the aisle until I go back to him and tell him to come with me until we go wherever we need to go. And people are absolutely amazed by that. The training is second to none. But yeah, I feel like I'm going on a bit now.
Well, I think they could do a little bit of training with our dog. Mind you, he's just a puppy, so I mean we're working with him every day, and he's slowly starting to learn. But Yeah, you
Yeah.
could do with a bit of extra. I think.
Yeah, it's that socialisation as well, isn't it? Because obviously when he goes to training, there's other 5 or 6 dogs in there,
Yeah.
and that helps, because when he's not really when he's working, he's not interested in other dogs at all.
Mm.
He's totally focused on me. He's looking at me all of the time. What we're doing, what you doing?
Yeah.
What are you okay at the moment? Do I need to do something? Or he's constantly focused on me. But when he's Ollie, no, he's just like,
Yeah. It,
put the telly
I
on,
mean,
driver. Let's get on with it.
yeah. I mean, during the training, if you take his harness off and he'd be able to come, Ollie, does he go and play with the other dogs? I mean, is he fully socialised that way?
Yeah,
Does he
yeah. I
does
mean,
he does he know playtime?
he does. I guess that's the other thing that's quite unique, and that the dogs learn in that training in that year. So when he's working, when he's got his jacket on and he's working away, toileting, he can't, he will not toilet while he's working. So I have
Mm.
to make sure that he has regular toilet breaks while we're working. And off comes a jacket. He goes off and does his business, and then we have a bit of a play, just to keep him sort of the stress levels down for him. Then jacket goes back on, and he's back into work mode. I mean, that might happen 4 or 5 times in the day.
Mm.
Yeah,
So
especially
on
when
the
we're at work.
so on the training days, then,
Yeah.
is it like sort of intensive 9 to 5, where with the breaks in, or is it just a few
No.
hours? How
Yeah.
does that work?
So it's purposefully scoped out that way. So they usually run from 10 till 12, and there's a break for about half an hour in the middle. But the lessons are really well structured, but because obviously it's about it's about me understanding what's going on in the trainings, because you know I have to practice that during the week. So what I learn on a Wednesday and a Saturday, I have to employ throughout the week. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't expect him to pick it up in the training session on a Wednesday and Saturday. It's all about me making sure he applies the skills that we're teaching him. So yeah, so it's for about 10 till 12.
Mm.
But we often have, it's not all training. We have away days, so we'll go off to um, garden centres or supermarkets or whatever, just to do that extra bit of training if we need it.
Mm. Should we bring Gary back in?
Bring the boss back, yeah.
Yeah. Hang on. Where he is now? There he is. Well, I mean, you guys are amazing, absolutely amazing. And how much do you get involved with the training, Gary?
Well, I'm sort of stepping back from the training gradually, and also a little bit reluctantly as well, because I do enjoy the training. I go to a training session. I always come away, and I like to think all the veterans also come away with a big smile on their face because it's hugely positive. But I'm doing less and less of that now, and I'm forcing myself to step back because we've got 2 brilliant trainers, and they've got a fantastic team of volunteer trainers who assist them. So there's less for me to do, which is great because then I can start doing things like fundraising and all the other activities that we need to do to keep things on track, and look at potential expansion in other areas, because we're hugely conscious of the fact that we can't we can't do what we do nationally, um, because we need people to be able to travel to and from the training for 9 months to a year. So you and we couldn't have people coming along and doing 2 weeks. Us training the dogs up and people coming along and doing 2 weeks and going off because on week 3 they'd come back and say this dog's broken, it's not working anymore. And the reason for that is um, it's muscle memory. With PTSD in particular, a lot of our veterans have struggled remembering what they've been taught and what they learn. But not only that, that relationship with the dog is vitally important. It takes time for them to understand all the foibles of that relationship and how to get the best out of their dog. So we put a huge amount of work into them working with a dog that may be less than perfect when they start off with. The dog may have rubbish recall, or it may not, it may struggle in different environments. And what we're doing with the veteran is they are saving that dog, they are saving that rescue dog, and we give them all the skills to be successful. But at the same time, that dog is actually providing them with a sense of doing something amazing, uh, you know, accomplishing something that they never thought they would, getting out and about, meeting people. They've got that whole social thing going on when they go out with their dog. And the subtle side of what we do, and we don't talk about this very loudly, but actually, when we're teaching a veteran, when they're training their dog, because they do the training on their dog, we're just there to assist them, that if they're teaching their dog that crowds, sudden noises, traffic, and busy environments is great, because that's what they've got to put down the lead to their dog to give their dog that confidence. All the time they're doing that, and we're going out and doing our field trips out in the public, doing stuff like that, they're learning themselves that actually it's not so bad. I'm learning vicariously through my dog that I can cope with this environment. And we know it's a challenge, and we say right from the start, we're going to challenge you, but they do it through the dog, and they're so focused on getting the dog through that difficult environment, they don't even realise that they're able to get themselves through that environment. And that's a little bit of magic that we've got, which we're clinging on to because it works. And that's why the program needs to be that length of time, because that's the journey that they're on.
Mm. So, how many? Let's just have a quick look at it. How I mean, you're getting rescue dogs. How do you identify that the dog has the right sort of temperament to become a PTSD dog?
Yeah, so we've got right from the get go, we formed a really good relationship with the Dogs Trust, and the Dogs Trust I do presentations. I did a presentation for the Dog Trust last week, and it's one of several that I do. They just love the fact that their dogs are becoming fully accredited assistance dogs, but that relationship has got to a level now where they will call us and say, we've just taken these dogs in, we think they may be useful for your program. And then we'll go and assess them, and we do an individual assessment with each dog. So our assessment forms are about 10 pages long, but our skilled staff will take their time, go through the assessment with the dog to see if it's got the attributes that we need. And we don't just take the best dogs. We take the dogs that have got separation anxiety, the dogs that are destructive, those sort of dogs, because actually they're displaying those behaviours because, one, they love the company of a human being, which is fantastic, and then two, they're bored, and if they're bored, they want a job. So we look at those things that for many humans they will take a dog to a rescue centre because they can't cope with the behaviour. In actual fact, there's nothing wrong with the behaviour. It's the environment, and it's the training, it's the input that dog needs. So we will look at the dogs individually, and if they show the right attributes, which we'll test, because part and parcel of the assessment is doing various tests with the dogs, then we'll take the dog on. We had one dog, we called him Rio the Rehomed, who had been to 9 different homes before we took him on. And that dog was outstanding. Far too smart for the previous owners, but with the right veteran who was able to give the dog the nurture, the guidance, and the help that the dog needed. He performs brilliantly now, is accredited, and is just a phenomenal dog, doing a great job as a partnership.
Brilliant. So it's identifying the right dog. I guess at the moment, there's as far as I'm aware, there's a large influx of dogs that are out for rescue because people are going back to work, having been working from home for a couple of years. They bought a dog, and now they're having to leave the dog, and it's being destructive in the house because it's because they're not there. And
Yeah.
I guess you'll see the benefit of that. So how many dogs, how many veterans are you able to work with at any one time?
So we don't like to work with any more than 4 or maximum 5 at a time, because our training teams is normally 2 or 3 at each hub, and we've got to give a real personal service and sort of make sure people get our the benefit of our brilliant training team. So um, we we need to keep the groups small because our veterans with PTSD feel more secure without having loads and loads of people there. And we need to watch carefully what they're doing and how they're getting on with their dog to recognise any problems, any difficulties, and to iron out any sort of bad habits early on so they don't become reinforced. So yeah, about sort of between sort of 3 to 5 veterans is more than enough for each hub coming to training and going through the process at a time.
So where are your hubs based?
So we've got one in West Sussex, and we use 2 locations in West Sussex. We tend to use village halls because they're cheap and cheerful, but actually they're great because they're a link into the community, and we want our veterans and dogs to be out locally in the community and meeting people and working together. So we've got one in North Chapel, and the other one is in Chichester. The Chichester one is a scout hut that we use, which has got a great big garden at the end. Um, Using these locations keeps our costs down, and they are brilliant because we're linked in with the community and we're able to use them, but stop using them if we're going to go out and do a field trip, or we're going to go to a garden centre, or we're going to do something else. So we've got options at each location. And on Wednesday, we were in Midhurst town centre, wandering in and out of shops and going into cafes. And we tend to vary the locations that we go so that the dog's training is generalised for any given environment.
Hmm. So have you just got the two areas in West Sussex, or are you be closer to this neck of the woods?
Yeah, so we've also got a hub in Somerset, in a place called Somerton, and they use 2 different village halls, one on a Saturday, one on a Wednesday, and they do exactly the same. They go for walks around the village and around the town, and get to know the local people. And actually, we get people say get a little bit grumpy with us if we don't go into their cafe because they haven't seen us for a week or so. So it's really quite nice. It's very, very social, and they eat a lot of cake and drink a lot of tea.
Brilliant. So
We also go to armed forces breakfast clubs as well, where we're made very, very welcome, and that's a really good opportunity for us and our veterans to show what they can do and show how well behaved the dogs are.
hmm. So from that point of view, then, how many veterans have you now, veterans and dogs, got on the accreditation? How
So
many
we've got
are out there?
just over 35 partnerships out there, and some of them are still going through towards accreditation, but most of them are accredited now, and the ones currently going through it, they'll all be accredited uh, by spring of next year. They're doing remarkably well.
And from that point of view, how how do you start looking at the next phase where you're looking at the next lot of veterans? So if they've
Yeah,
come out
so
for
we've always
accreditation,
got an eye on the future and getting the next lot through. So um, we're already doing interviews and checks and phone calls to applicants at the moment. So the process is most people will fill out an application form online, send it in. We'll look at it, and if in any respect, we'll reply to it. Um, but we'll organise a phone call to start off with, where we talk bluntly about the about the training and the challenge that's involved. The fact that you won't be you can't have a dog and stay in and lock the door. You've got to get out there and about in the public space, in the public domain, and we help you through it. And we help you through it bit by bit. Bit by bit is an acronym we use for dog training. So you just take it in small steps in order to get to where you got to go. But we help you right the way through that, and at every step, gradually, to help you get to the stage where you and your dog will be capable of becoming accredited. And all the time we're speaking to people. I mean, the thing about that I'm absolutely 100% sold on is that we've got to be completely transparent about what's involved. So it is a 9-month journey. We do expect you to commit for 2 sessions a week. Yes, you can go on holiday, and if you're mortally injured, you can have a day off training. But we expect that kind of commitment from you. And we need you to commit to the program. And we fairly quickly sort of sort through people who think about it and think it may be a good idea, but it may not be for them. But they'll give it a go. We don't want those sort of people. We need people to really learn about what we do and how we do it, and we give them all the information on the website. There's frequently asked questions. And they can speak to us and pick up the phone and speak to us, and we'll tell them in depth about what the program involves. But if they're going to partner a dog, they need to have that commitment right from the start, because if they haven't, then they're wasting their time and they're wasting our time, and we haven't got that time to waste.
And wasting the dog's time.
Absolutely.
So do the veterans that are coming forward, are they single, or if they're in a relationship, they're married with a partner? Can they still take part, or is it just if they're single?
No. We've got veterans who've come on the program who are single, and obviously that's the dog has played a big part in reducing their isolation and loneliness. So that's been huge. But we've also got people with a family. One of our veterans at the moment has got 5 children, I think, and some cats. So we have to look at the dog.
Could they not sleep at night?
No. Obviously, there's nothing on the television, but we need to have a look at those dogs to see if they're going to fit that environment and are going to be able to thrive within that makeup. We often take the partners and the children into training so that they can have the opportunity to do some training. The dog will primarily be the dog of the veteran, but as Martin's alluded to, dogs need to have time off, and we want our dogs to enjoy family life as well and to be a family pet when they're not working. So that's something that we get the family involved in. We give the family the basic commands and some skills so that the dog doesn't think, oh, I don't have to listen to you, I just have to listen to my veteran, because we can't have that. We want the dog behaving with the rest of the other family members as well. So we take everybody as an individual, regardless of their background, their makeup. We'll look at ways to make it work for them, and we'll put everything into that partnership. As long as they're prepared to put the work in, we'll make it happen.
So, Martin, so you've been on the program now for getting on for, I guess, 2 years.
Yeah.
You've got the training on a Wednesday and a Saturday, and you spend the rest of the time reinforcing what you've picked up on the training sessions. So how much time do you sort of have to devote to get the dog to the level it is now for accreditation?
Well, I think that's the best part about the training and what we do, or what Service Dogs UK would do. So they won't they'll put you forward for your accreditation when you're ready, when they feel that you and the dog are ready. And as Gary mentioned earlier, sometimes that can be 9 months, it might be a year, it might take a little bit longer. There's no rush anyway. There's no, great rush to get it sorted. It's about making it work and giving the dog an opportunity to succeed. That's what it's all about for us. We don't want the dogs to fail. We don't want us to fail. But I have to give him the best situation every single time to make him succeed, because that's what he deserves more than ever.
Yeah.
So when we've become accredited, I can call on my training team at any point. I can call the team at Service Dogs UK and say, "Oh my God, I've got a problem," and they'll always go, "Ooh, let's talk about it. Come back to training." There's always that resource there for me. If I can't remember what I've sort of been taught in the previous year, but it is really about me getting out there and just getting on with it. But I can always use them. They're there all the time. They never leave you. They never. So it's not you're just part of a family, really. It's part of an extended family. You just because you're accredited, you've done the hard work. You've done what you need to do. Ollie's done his bit. I've done my bit. But I think that's the thing. That's the other thing that's really good about that. So that accreditation and being accredited and getting to that point. Because all of that stuff that's gone on previously, before you got the dog, sort of that isolation and, that drudgery around work and all this kind of stuff, and, you're not getting out and about, not doing. Obviously, you've had a whole year, your life's transformed, because you're out. You have to be out and about. And there's no two ways about it. He needs exercising twice a day. He needs to be stimulated as well. He needs fun. So your life transforms, but it's shaping his life and your life from that accreditation point. When you're accredited, it's making the skills that we both learned fit our new life, if you like.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense. So from that point of view, then, how often do you have to go through reaccreditation? Is it once a year?
Once a year, yeah. But if ever I'm stumbling, if I feel like I've got a problem, I can pick up the phone. I can talk to Gary. I can talk to the training team. I can talk to the foster carers. I can talk whoever in the team, in the service dogs team. We've even got a WhatsApp group. All the guys are on there. Everyone's on there chatting. I was going to say something else there. I'm not going to say that. They're chatting every day. But yeah, so you can always get advice from your peers as well and stuff like that. We meet up. So when we're accredited, we try and meet up a couple times a week or a couple times a month or whatever, and go for a walk along the beach or do whatever we need to do. Give the dogs time down. Again, give them that socialisation so they get to know each other and can have a bit of playtime.
Yeah, I can just picture it now. You turn up with two or three other guys that are in the same program that have got the dogs, and you take their work clothes off, and they're all off chatting away about you and the other owners.
Yeah. It's like
you can just picture that, can't you?
Yeah, but it's like Gary was saying earlier. You really struck home with me, and I kind of forgot about it a little bit. So when we were doing our training, so there's always bits and pieces in the training, So you're working in threes and fours, going through your training, and some dogs might excel in one area, other dogs might not, and as you're always kind of looking at your peers and thinking, "Oh, bloody! I wish my dog would do that. I wish my dog would do that." Well, my problem was, Ollie just would not down and stay, but training and repetitive, like Gary's saying, that muscle, brain muscle and stuff like that. Suddenly, at about month 5, the mist cleared and things clicked into place, and he just started doing it when I didn't even want him to do it. It was just like, it kind of mind read you just before you was going to say it. He'd go into it down and stay there, and you're like, when did that happen? How did that happen?
Brilliant.
But they're incredible. A great company, great friends, great pals. But it's that learning curve as well. You learn with your peers,
Yeah.
and all the dogs are different. All the dogs are
Yeah.
different.
So Gary, coming back to the dogs, you said part of it is that once you've identified a dog that'll be good for somebody, and how do you find foster homes? Do you have a process where you go through if somebody wants to be, say, a foster carer for a dog? How do you go about vetting those?
Yeah, and that's a good question. Our fosters are our lifeblood. Without them, we couldn't do what we do, and they're so incredibly important. So we have our foster lead, who is on the board, and she is just brilliant. But she basically, we've got an application process for fosters. We regularly advertise for fosters, and what we ask of the fosters is that they're able to not only take in a dog, but also nurture that dog as if it was their own, and take that dog to a point where they're going to hand over that dog, and it could be, it could be 12 weeks, it could be 2 months, it could be half a year, and then say goodbye to that dog and hand it over to a veteran. And that process is, as Martin said, can be quite gradual, starting off with walks and sleepovers and that sort of thing. So, but it's really special people that can do that, because obviously the dog and their relationship can be quite strong by then. But what is happening is they are changing a veteran's life. When they hand that dog over, that's not the end, because as long as they have another dog from us, they'll be at the training with their dog. They'll be seeing the dog that they've handed over, and they'll be seeing that dog thrive under the care of the veteran. So some of our fosters have fostered several dogs, and they see the amazing change around in the veterans that come through the program. And yes, they've nurtured and loved that dog, but when they hand it over, they know that dog's going to have a fantastic life, and then they're ready to foster the next one for us. So great fosters are few and far between, and when we find them and they do a really good job, we don't let them go. They're not allowed to leave us because
So
they're so essential and so important.
yeah, so the fosters, when you've identified a good foster, and do they uh, take part in training the dog in the initial stages? Do they come along to the sessions?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
or
so
do they have different
all our new
sessions?
people, whether they're fosters or volunteers in any shape or form, they all go through an induction process. They have to sign their life away to say that they, all our conduct agreements have got to be signed, because we want the right people. We want the people who are in it for the dog and for the veteran, and not for any personal reasons. We're really focused on what we do. And we don't want volunteers or fosters who, we're going to spend so much time worrying about them that we can't concentrate and give the proper focus where it's needed. So we do have quite a stringent, as you would expect, process for getting good fosters, and we do interview them, and we go and do home checks and home visits and check out their situation. But for a foster, um, if they are spending most of their time at home, and they like to go on holidays and they don't want the commitment or the expense of having their own dog, it can be a really, really good option, because they get a dog. We pay for all the expenses of the dog, their insurance, the food, all the equipment, etc., and they get the chance to have a dog in their home. But if they're going to go on holiday for 3 months of the year or whatever, then they can, as long as they
Yeah.
give us notice, we can get the dog somewhere else while that takes place. So for people who can't or don't want to commit to having their own dog and all of that what that brings, this is a really good option for them.
Mm.
But the main driver for most of our wonderful fosters is that they believe in looking after our veterans, and they believe in giving dogs a chance to reach their full potential, and they see both of that through the program.
Fantastic. So, Gary, how can people donate? How can people find you? And how can people help you guys along the way? Where can they go?
As we've already alluded to, we get well supported by the armed forces and the armed forces charities. We struggle with getting finances to support our emergency services people who, are injured serving the public. So I guess some of the things that people can do is sponsoring a dog on our website, which is www.servicedogsuk.org. There are pictures of our young dogs where people can sponsor them, and even if it's £3 a month, that's fantastic. It really helps. As I alluded to earlier, your money goes a long way with us. It really does, and it's essential that we have those funds in order to carry on doing what we do. But people can support us. Social media is great. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all those wonderful social channels, because, as long as you're liking and sharing, more people get to hear about us, and, potentially sponsors and funders can come in as a result of that. So that's a great way to support us. If you're thinking about having a dog as a foster, that would be incredible. We're always looking for really good fosters. And if you want to learn about dog training as a foster, it's a great opportunity, because you come in and, we'll help you get the basics into the dog. And, once you learn that, your next dog comes in. It's fantastic how confident our fosters become as a result of going through some of our training. So there's lots of opportunities there to get involved and do something really positive to help those people who've been injured in service.
Brilliant. Well, unfortunately, we're coming to the end. So, if you guys just want to hang around for a few minutes after, we'll have a wash up. But in the meantime, I'd just like to thank Gary. Been incredible. Martin, you've been terrific. And Ollie, well, it's downtime.
He's been at work today. Leave him alone.
Brilliant. So, I'll be with you in a tick. So, Service Dogs UK, what a brilliant charity. And the amount of work that they're doing is phenomenal. If you want to support them, there it is, servicedogsuk.org. Get on there, have a look what they're doing, and if you feel you can support them, dive in there. If you feel that you'd like to support me, you can subscribe to the channel. Doesn't cost anything to subscribe. You can give us the old thumbs up, give us a like. You can click the bell icon, and that'll get you notified when I go live. You can buy me a coffee. I've even got a QR code for it. Check that out. And there's my book. I'm part of a book collaboration to be a host, and we're all experts. I was the number one on Podmatch for 4 months straight as a host, which is why I got invited on to be in the collaboration of the book. There's a guest mastery to go along with it as well. So if you want to be a guest on shows like this, that's the place to have a look. Anyway, that has been a terrific evening. So without too much further ado, I'd just like to thank everybody. I'd like to thank Martin. I'd like to thank Gary for coming along and making it an awesome show. And again, until next week, we've got the quiz on Tuesday, and next week we're looking at taking some stigma out of mental health. So TTFN, ta-ta for now.